Today on the Topping Show, Matt Walsh reacts to a New Yorker saying that Zohran has a good vision, but his policies are bad. Jamall Bowman says that stress of being called the N-word causes cancer in the African-American community. The Supreme Court rules that states do have the permission and the ability to defund Planned Parenthood. Stellantis leadership tells employees to stop calling themselves Fiat Chrysler of America. GE Appliances to move some of their production from China to the United States with an over $450 million investment. And the Chevrolet Silverado is being recalled. All of that and much more on The Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of The Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency in IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Guys, he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, you can reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free flamethrower with every IT purchase with Picatinny rail adapter, so you can mount it to any standard AR-15 like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the flamethrower button to learn more and see me shooting a flamethrower. And lastly, trying to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Going over to the business part of the podcast, you have the Stellantis CEO irate that, well, they keep calling themselves the old company internally. Now, this is brought to us thanks to Motor1.com, specifically Adrian, who's right over there. And when she says, quote, Stellantis boss tells employees to stop describing themselves as former FCA or PSA workers. He says, we are Stellantis, which, I don't know. I always thought Stellantis sounded like a really cool name for like a video game company or perhaps a firearm company. But it is seemingly just picked out of the blue for the new, big holding company for the automotive company of 17 brands that have been combined throughout the years. And here you can see the CEO of Stellantis with their funny looking logo, which also kind of looks like they, maybe it's a nice way of saying borrowed some inspiration from Samsung with flipping the V to be an N, Stellantis. I'm sure it sounds fancier if you're speaking over in Italia, where it's based. Now, they say, quote, after 4 tumultuous years of the helm of Stellantis, Carlos Tavares unexpectedly stepped down last December. Unexpectedly? No, profits and so revenue tanked by 48%, and I believe profits went down by like 43%. No one was surprised he stepped down, for the record. Now, they say that he stepped down in December despite having another year on his contract. The company took about 6 months to find a replacement, ultimately appointing Antonio Filizzaso last month to lead the automotive conglomerate that now has, 14 brands. He is born in Naples. The Italian executive is taking a dual role, retaining the position as a head of North America and American brands. Now, they say that he is now reviewing Stellantis' long-term Dare Forward 2030 strategy. I don't know, I just got flashbacks to the Dare program in elementary school, which might age me quite a bit. Back in the day, they had a lion wearing a t-shirt. It said Dare. And the whole thing was to inspire you not to do drugs or violence. I forgot the acronym. The marketing wasn't that great, but I remember that funny little lion. But nevertheless, they had their Dare Forward 2030 strategy. Now, that strategy was to determine whether to make it, what type of adjustments were needed before any major decisions. He's asking employees to stop identifying themselves as former Fiat Chrysler automobiles or Peugeot Citroën staff, which, again, those are the two giant conglomerates that combined in 2021, which is kind of funny. They say, Fiat Chrysler, because, again, Fiat bought Chrysler North America many years ago during the 2009 automotive bankruptcies when also GM went bankrupt. Now, the issue with that is kind of funny that they call it Chrysler because, again, Chrysler, that company only has one car now. It's the crappy minivan. I would argue the best of the Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, company, there's a strong brand in sales, it'd be Dodge. But nevertheless, and of course, ironically, Chrysler did buy Dodge from the Dodge brothers way back in the day. But yeah, they call themselves Fiat Chrysler America or FCA, and is Peugeot Citroën, which one would think you would combine those companies to like Fiat. I mean, I would argue, kind of based on brand identity and sales, like Fiat Chrysler Citroën, or I don't know, I would combine it so it's more memorable than, again, Stellantis. Or Stellantis, if you want to sound fancy. Now, they say, as a reminder, FCA-PSA merger was finalized in early 2021. Instead, the new CEO wants roughly 250,000 employees to embrace the unified identity. We are Stellantis, which, at least the CEO does look good in that suit. Well, granted, all men do look better suited up, of course, as we know. He says, that approach makes sense. After all, it's already been 4 years since the mega merger, with a new CEO and leadership team at the helm, Stellantis aims to move forward rather than remain anchored in the past. According to the Automobile News, Fiosa told employees that they are free to speak up and listen to, and he emphasized that he doesn't intend to be the CEO who lives in an ivory tower. The former Jeep boss also believes past mistakes can be corrected. Maybe bringing a good old Hemi V8 into the Dodge Charger instead of making it an EV. He says, quote, "There's nothing wrong about Stellantis that cannot be fixed with what is right about Stellantis. The company has already dismissed persistent rumors about offloading a struggling Maserati luxury brand, signaling continued commitment to its many subsidiaries." I thought they were going to say customers of Maserati, all 18 of them, which talk about the number one depreciating POS, or what's a nice way of keeping this family friendly, piece of, I'll just say a piece of shit car is a Maserati. It's kind of funny and sad to think they used to actually compete successfully against Ferrari throughout the decades, and now they're seen as a discount luxury automobile that, again, depreciates like a rock, and is probably less reliable than a Ford, which is saying something. Now, they say that, quote, "Meanwhile, on the other side of the pond, Chrysler appears to have a future as well." Well, let's clarify that. Chrysler North America, or, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, as well as Jeep. Because, again, Chrysler, the only Chrysler automobile right now is the minivan, Pacifica. Now, they say, quote, "Speaking of Maserati, some of the employees may soon be working with more closely from Alfa Romeo. That CEO, Sant'Antonio Felici, the CEO of both Italian marques, recently hinted at deeper collaboration between the two. Staying in Italy, Lancia's relaunch has gone smoothly as hoped, while a Barth shift away from combustion engines in favor of EVs could prove risky." Yeah, no shit. And a Barth, they used to have, the Fiat 500 of Barth. Some people make fun of it because, it's a small little car, not too dissimilar from the smart car in terms of some angles. Though it does look a little bit better, that bar's quite low. It was a great track toy. Had a stick shift option. I believe it was also a 4-banger turboed. It even had racing brakes in the factory. It was a great track toy, which, again, I think that's what the Barth brand is all about. They had the same thing where, they also had the Mazda Miata, which is, the Barth edition, or, a lot of parts sharing, so to say. Or is it, my memory eludes me today. Or was that the BMW color? No. Yeah, apologies. It's been a long day with very few hours of sleep in my tech company lately. But group problems I have were growing. But yeah, it's one of those things where the Abarth is all about performance and making that an EV, where, again, most tracks won't let you even use it. That's so stupid. Now they say, quote, "All things considered, Fiosa has a full plate as he manages a sprawling portfolio of brands, some of which are in urgent need of revitalization. Where Stellantis can mirror the success of Volkswagen Group remains uncertain. The challenges today are far more complex than during the era that helped Volkswagen become the global powerhouse. Rising competition from China, stricter regulations, and escalated production cost are just a few of the hurdles against the legacy automakers that they are now being forced to face." Which, yeah, those regulations aren't, they're actually kneecapping pretty much every company except the Chinese in terms of bullying these companies to make EVs, which are the least profitable thing on the planet for most companies, which is why Tesla's so famous and successful. That's why Elon's a genius, in my opinion. He found a way to make a profit on an EV. Granted, there's issue with the government subsidies, so you could argue, how profitable are they at the end of the day. But again, he made a profit with the same rule book that every other company had at the time. So it's very impressive they did that. I'm very skeptical to see if any of these other companies will compete. With Stellantis, they need to get the Hemi back, and they are with the Ram 1500. Now that's an option again. So I think that will dramatically increase sales. And again, trucks, SUVs, and crossovers are some of the most profitable vehicles in the automobile industry. Hence why so many companies make them. But again, they still have 14 brands under their portfolio. Alfa Romeo, they're really hot for a little while in the United States. Great sales spike when they brought the brand back to the United States. But it's kind of fizzling out. You see them every once in a while. Again, this is me anecdotally speaking about, Texas. But yeah, in terms of fixing the most important parts of the company, I'd be, fixing Dodge as they try to go EV, and that's failing spectacularly. But let me know, do you think they'll be able to successfully turn the company around? I'm a little pessimistic, but let me know your thoughts, because I'd love to hear what you have to say. Other interesting business news, you have General Electric moving their appliance production, or at least some of it, from China to Kentucky with a nearly $500 million investment. This is brought to us thanks to ABC News, which they say, and it's credited to Bruce over there, who's a writer, and also at the Associated Press, saying, quote, "GE Appliances moves some production from China to Kentucky with a $400 million investment. GE Appliances has announced nearly $500 million project will create 800 jobs and ship production of washers from China to its manufacturing complex in Kentucky. Here you can see the iconic GE logo there. Oh, I'm gonna say there's nothing worse than when I'm starting to hate touchscreens. They're great when they work, but when they don't, referencing my laptop in front of me now. Going down the article, they say that, quote, the $490 million investment positions the Kentucky home appliances company to rank as the biggest U.S. manufacturer of its washing machines. Now, when asked for comment, CEO Kevin Nolan said that, quote, we are bringing laundry production to our global headquarters in Louisville and will begin manufacturing in the U.S. and believe that manufacturing in the U.S. is fundamental to our, quote, zero distance business strategy to make appliances as close as possible to our consumers and customers. This decision is our most recent product reshoring, aligns with the current economic and political environment, unquote, which, yeah, kind of reminds me during the presidency of Trump in his first term, when he was negotiating with Carrier, one of the largest air conditioning manufacturers on the planet, in which he convinced them to say here, as what would Trump say? If you put those jobs in China, I'm going to tear the shit out of them. There'll be basically no profitability. It won't be a viable business option to do that in China, which again does show that tariffs do work, but also does increase the cost to the consumer because labor in the United States especially is one of the most expensive variables and reasons why, made in the USA is very expensive in many instances. Though again, I think vast automation and there'll be ways where they can try to make it more realistic. Now they say that, quote, this announcement comes as President Trump attempts to lure factories back to the United States by imposing further import taxes and tariffs on foreign goods. He has slapped a 10% tariff on imports from most countries, putting a 30% levies on Chinese goods. GE Appliances says nearly all of the steel used in its U.S. manufacturing for its appliances comes from American steel makers. GE Appliances say the project will move production of its combination washer-dryer and a lineup of front-load washers from China to Bluegrass State. In all, production of more than 15 models of front-load washers will shift from the company's sprawling Louisville production complex, known as the Appliance Park. It said once the added production is in place, the total area devoted to closed care production at the Louisville complex will equal 33 football fields. Because it's America, and we will use any metric of measureship. We'll use any and all measures of measurement except the metric system. We didn't win that war for nothing. We're not using that. We're not using the damn metric system. We're measuring this in football fields, which is a sports ball that I have seen from time to time. They say that, quote, Kentucky Democrat Governor Andy Bishar, who criticized Trump's tariffs, hailed the company's deepening commitment to the state, which, kind of ironic because, again, that's a big reason why these jobs are coming back. Many companies will say they're going to save money by made in the USA because of the cost of transportation from, China, which, again, that is a cost, but it does pale in comparison to the labor costs between Chinese labor and U.S. labor. So again, that's a variable, but realistically, this is happening because of the Trump tariffs. Now, it'll be interesting to see what type of impact that has on the price to consumer and how much automation will be in place. And because that's one of the biggest variables that these companies are using to help mitigate some of that big employment cost. Now, they say that, quote, the redesigned factory will become the most advanced manufacturing plant for clothes washing production, the company said, featuring the latest in, you guessed it, automation, robotics, and material handling technologies, including automated guided vehicles and autonomous mobile robots, aka Terminators, perhaps. Now, the company said the new manufacturing lines will open in 2027. They say that next door to the complex is Building 1. The company produces top-load washers and front-load dryers. GE handles production, design, and engineering work at Louisville headquarters, but lacks the overall production capacity to make all of its products in the U.S. Also cost. So contracts with other manufacturers, including China, for some of its production. The company says its core business strategy is to base production in the United States, and the investment announced is another step forward to achieving that goal, which, again, funny how they had none of this to say when Biden was in charge. Again, it's just due to tariffs. Now, you also have Vice President of Clothing Care at GE Appliances, Lee Lagomarcio. I believe I'm pronouncing that right, Lagomarcio. And, quote, manufacturing in Louisville puts production closer to our designers, engineers, and consumers so that together they can create the most advanced, innovative laundry appliances, unquote. They say that the $400 million infusion into the Appliance Park is the latest round of investments in recent years as part of the company's growth strategy. It builds on the company's previous investments of a $3.5 billion in U.S. manufacturing over the past decade, with more than one-third of it going to Appliance Park. Appliance Park in Louisville, employs 8,000 workers, and it's home of 5 plants that produce washers, dryers, dishwashers, refrigerators, as well as parts and components. GE Appliances are also manufacturing in other states, including South Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, and Connecticut. Now, they did note that GE Appliances is, yep, a subsidiary of Chinese-based Haier company. I can't pronounce that. Which, what? Haier? Shows how much I know about appliances. But yeah, that's kind of a sad thing. It's like, it's not really the GE you and I know. It's a licensing thing, basically. General Electric, which used to make everything from nuclear bombs to miniguns to appliances and more, they've very much concentrated towards healthcare devices, oil, natural gas, as well as wind technologies lately. I forgot their 4 pillars of business that they chose to focus on, but years ago, they chose to divest a lot of things that were built up under the Jack Welch CEO empowerment or CEO time. So it's great to see some, made in the USA coming back here. Hopefully this is legitimately part of their long-term business plan. And I do wonder how much this will increase the cost to consumer. Hopefully it's not too prohibitive. And I don't know, maybe, I'm definitely weird in many ways, but like, I'm one of those guys where I'm willing to pay a little bit more for it's made in the USA. On average, there's an increase in quality, which they kind of have to because they cannot compete at, being the lowest price point. So everything or darn near everything I buy is either made in the USA or I make it myself, or something where, I just can't make it myself, of kind of like a computer, which I could assemble myself with components, but I mean, I'm not going to go out and mine the materials and actually make it from scratch like we made in the USA. So I know I'm a little bit of an outlier. I buy my shoes made in the USA, very rare. New Balances, the best. But let me look at thoughts in the comments, because as always, it'd be fascinating to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the Cultural Pod podcast, you have Matt Walsh reacting to a New Yorker agreeing with Zohari's vision, even though he disagrees with many of his policies. Now, this is brought to us thanks to Matt Walsh, hashtag Matt Walsh blog, hashtag the Sweet Baby Gang, although cannot elaborate further on that note. Now, he's responding to Sneeko Updates, who says, quote, Sneeko went off on Matt Walsh and called him, quote, quote, absolute moron for endorsing Zohran Madalami. You can't talk about foreigners when you're owned by a foreigner. Your boss is literally a Mossad spy, unquote. Now, Matt Walsh, and I'll play this video in a second here. Matt Walsh, I'll just play the video right now, actually. And cover your ears if you have children listening, because this person drops many of the words used in rap lyrics. Let's just say that much. Well, I should clarify. That's all pretty much all bad words, but the F-bomb.
I'm very excited to see what Zohran does in the next coming months. It's like the most controversial subject on X, on Twitter right now. Matt Walsh was talking, called me what did Matt Walsh call me? He called me an absolute moron.
This is very rare. A New York City subway, and we've gone 14 seconds. No one, I don't believe I've seen a single person get stabbed or defecate themselves. That's very rare. This might be the rarest film of New York City subway ever. Just saying.
But he's bought and sold by Ben Shapiro. Matt Walsh, you can't talk about foreigners when you're owned by a foreigner. Your boss is literally a Mossad spy. So before you complain, I'm Donnie saying defund the police. I don't agree with his socialist takes. I don't agree with him supporting transgenders and surgeries for children. If he does, I'm completely against that. But the most important issue to me is somebody who's anti-Zionist right now. And if he's a real New Yorker and he has a vision for the city that aligns with a lot of the people, then I wish him the best of luck. Does it make me a socialist? No. Does that make me a queer liberationist? No. But I think Matt Walsh should shut the fuck up. Quit your job. If you're going to talk about foreigners, stop working for an Israeli spy. All right, then we can have this conversation. And right now, it just seems like a whole bunch of yap.
Yeah, so voting for a socialist doesn't make you a socialist. That's his line of intellect. Also, if you actually look into the business structure of the Daily Wire, the first person to make the biggest fiscal investment in the company were the Wilkes brothers, which are, they're famously based out of Texas. And I'm pretty sure they're Christian. Now, Matt Walsh responded to this guy saying, quote, this guy has an IQ of a pancake. Really? A strikingly stupid person. That almost sounds like Trump really quick. For a second there. This dude has an IQ of pancake. Really? Strikingly stupid. Well, I'll get back to Matt Walsh's quote. Quoting him saying, quote, he says that he disagrees with Zohran's platform, yet he agrees with his vision for the city, which is somehow distinct from his platform, apparently. He then calls Zohran a real New Yorker, even though the guy's from Uganda and has only been a citizen for like 6 years. Just totally incoherent, unquote. And this got pretty viral. Got 1.4 million views as well as 21,000 likes, which is quite a few to say at least. Not to brag, but one of my videos last week got 3 or 4 likes. One might have been for myself, if I'm being honest. But nevertheless, 3 people. That's all about quality over quantity. As Trump would say, Those are the three most awesome people on the planet. Those are the coolest, the G's, the OG, the original gangsters. Love the Topping Talks videos. Even though his name is hilarious, we still click the like button or give him a nasty comment with some feedback. Constructive criticism, always appreciated. Now, that might be the worst Trump impression you hear all year, but that perhaps is an accolade in and of itself, like Ford making, having more recalls than anyone on the planet. But I partially digress. Now, going into the comment section, one of the first ones comes to us thanks to E. Miles Chong. Now, he says, quote, "It's truly some goofy shit to call Ben Shapiro a foreigner when Zohrans an actual foreigner, as am I, but you don't hear me trying to turn the United States into a communist shithole." In 240 likes, which is, I think, pretty sure Ben Shapiro was born in California or New York. Where was it? Which, granted, some people might argue makes him a foreigner because those states are such the antithesis of what our founding fathers believed in terms of ideology and politics. But in all seriousness, he's born in the USA. Paul Zazupa says, quote, "That's your typical New Yorker these days. That's why the city is collapsing. It's a ghetto soon, or it'll be a ghetto soon." 124 likes for that. Again, when I first started the show, no one tuned in except maybe family. And there are no subscribers. And I spoke faster than Ben Shapiro and more awkwardly than Joe Biden trying to come upstairs. And even stuttering perhaps more than Joe Biden. But as I slowly but surely gain more subscribers, I've been better at speaking. Some people might make fun of me saying barely any improvement at all, but statistically speaking, I would argue still an improvement. So, feels my theory. The more people subscribe, the better I speak. And someday I may get through an entire episode speaking perfectly. Maybe, perhaps, no promises. But that's why I ask you again to click that subscribe button and or tell your friends or your enemies. You might piss them off so much, you at least get some interesting conflict. Or they'll be so enamored with your great taste in my show that your enemies will become your friends. Just saying, might make for an interesting story. Now, going back to the comment section, you have Joel Berry saying, quote, "This isn't complicated. Zohran is an anti-Zionist. It's the only issue people infected with the Jew hate virus care about." Gained 293 likes. Or sorry, 793 likes. Probably dyslexic too. Me. The flag guy says, quote, "All anti-Semites are strikingly stupid." Gained 211 likes. Mike simply says, "I noticed you didn't call him a liar." Gained 392 likes. This got 5.8 thousand likes. Jeez Louise. This is from Sneeko saying, quote, "You're not America first. You're employed by an Israeli and will avoid any debate with someone who confronts you about that. Don't flatter yourself. You're 40, and your only serious debate was with a transgender college kid." It's gained 5.8 thousand likes. Which, again, main employer, was it? Is it Caleb? What is it? The CEO who took over for Jeremy Boring was not Caleb. It leaves me at the moment. But again, Ben Shapiro obviously is a co-founder of the company. He owns, obviously, I don't know if I would guess he has majority shares of the company. Again, the largest investor that the public knows about, at least I know about, I've heard about, would be the Wilks brothers. But I partially digress. Smite D simply says, "At least this Zohan guy seems to put America first. Can't say the same about your master." Gained 952 likes. One of the things that I don't like the most about this Zohan guy is, he said he wants to ban all guns in a tweet from, was it 2020? I mean, this guy's on authoritarian as it gets. In addition to wanting to give away free stuff and, let criminals out of jail. I mean, literally he wants to ban your guns. How could anyone with a modicum of intelligence vote for him is beyond me. But again, he did win the Democrat primary. I mean, that's kind of what they stand for these days. You also have common sense extremist, so you can't speak anything at all today. You got to click that button. Says, quote, "I'm more curious about your thoughts about your checks being written by foreign intelligence." Gained 537 likes. Brotherhood says, quote, "Sneeko's thing is that he's right about one specific group of people and wrong about literally everything else. Inconvenient person to have in your cohort." Gained 226 likes. Jay says, "You're a traitor to America and its people for kneeling to Ben Shapiro until they fix that. Your opinions do not matter." Gained 351 likes, which, again, of the Daily Wire's remaining cast, again, they kicked out, Candace Owens, then also Brett Cooper. I mean, Matt Walsh is probably the one that disagrees with Ben Shapiro the most. That being said, in terms of deviation from the, not group, well, I guess you could call it group think. I mean, Matt Walsh is most famously known for being an isolationist. So he's not anti-Israel. He's saying, let's use a greater resource allocation to fixing our country first. And again, that's not the antithesis of Ben Shapiro's ideology, but it's very much against what Ben Shapiro stands for. I mean, Michael Knowles is very much more in line with Ben Shapiro in terms of, again, many of their shared philosophies and ideals that they promulgate. But again, Matt Walsh, of all the people in the Daily Wire cast, or, I don't know what you call it, brain farts today. I swear, I appreciate everyone's patience. Of the whole Daily Wire crew, I mean, he's much more contrarian. Now, again, that being said, he does shorts. I mean, he doesn't go too far, so to say. He's, again, mostly an isolationist, which, again, it's not like he agrees with Ben Shapiro every single day. human flourishing. I mean, also, I'm not sure if anyone cares, but I mean, even geographically, they're also separated. With the Daily Wire famously headquartered in Tennessee, I mean, Shapiro and his studio where he is at is in the Florida office. I mean, I don't know if it matters to anyone, but like, it's not like they're talking every day and Ben Shapiro is telling you what to say. He's disagreed with Ben Shapiro on multiple times. With, I guess, two of the biggest, more recent, more pertinent things we disagreeing with: U.S. funding of Israel, and then the U.S. arming and doing some of their munitions dropping for Israel, with Matt Walsh more being against those. Let's see here. Trying to see if there's any more contrarian statements. Glory Perry says, quote, "It's pretty comical how each time you completely ignore the fact that you work for Ben Shapiro. You say that you disagree with Ben Shapiro's desires for total white replacement in America, but at the same time you work for him, just completely incoherent." Gained 1.4 thousand likes, which I believe Matt Walsh has responded to. Well, Biden said it famously a couple times about the white replacement theory. So is Obama in terms of, their actual agreement with it. Ben Shapiro is very much on the mind of, I don't care where you come from, but as long as you share the same ideology, who cares what we look like? I think, again, they all keep saying works for Ben Shapiro, which, again, he's an owner of the Daily Wire, but he's not technically in the leadership position. I'm sure he still has a great influence on the company's vision and as they would call it, their window. But yeah, definitely one of Matt's. Well, he is one of Matt's most. This is one of Matt's most famous tweets of the month. But let me know what your thoughts are, because me, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Even if it takes me a couple days to get back to you with my schedule, I always try to respond with everyone, even if it's something I don't agree with. Even critical feedback is appreciated. So click that button, tell your friends, as well as give a comment, and I would greatly appreciate it. Now, going over to the political part podcast, you have Jamall Bowman saying that the stress of being called the N-word might cause cancer, which, is, it's as coherent as everything else they see on CNN. Now, this is brought to us thanks to CNN, which NWokeness says, quote, Jamall Bowman says that the stress of being called the N-word is why blacks suffer from obesity, cancer, and etc., which, I mean, that's pretty much every rap lyric, so, Maybe NWokeness is framing this inappropriately, and he'll get from some very articulate studies. Maybe the scientists had looked into this, maybe how it affects the eardrum and the mental health, and that domino effect. It actually does cause cancer. I mean, obviously not, but we will hear what Jamall Bowman has to say. Again, it's credited to CNN, or some people more accurately call it Clown and News Network.
You can't be calm about this. I'm a black man in America. The reason why heart disease... I'm white, I can't comment. Listen to what I'm saying. The reason why heart disease and cancer and obesity and diabetes are bigger in the black community is because of the stress we carry from having to deal with being called the N-word directly or indirectly every day. If you
What? The dumbest thing I've heard in my life. I've heard, and again, we've heard theories about medical malpractice or doctors treating people differently. Maybe there's some creed to that. That'd be easier to statistically study, at least. But just being called something nasty, which again rarely happens. What's that gal's name? The gal did in the park earlier this year, and it was a viral story in America for months. Is it Shiloh something or Shyla Hendricks? That's what it was. They went viral for months because it's so rare that it happens. Again, that's a good thing. I don't think you should be going around saying the N-word. But this guy's saying, "Oh yeah, we're stressed about it." We're stressed about something that statistically never happens. Except for, maybe in 2009, a Call of Duty lobby? Okay, that it happens, I don't want to say all the time there, but very, 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 very frequently in Call of Duty lobbies for Modern Warfare 2. But nowadays, Microsoft censors that because they're evil and they believe in censorship. But, even anecdotally, this is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. He thinks that causes cancer. Which again, I wish there's more public political and cultural debate on, I love the Maha movement, and I think it's more important when you focus on things that have a much more legitimate correlation to cancer causing things, like the stuff they put in our food, the stuff they put in our medicine, stuff in our environment that's physically. There are many things that cause cancer, but it's so asinine to think, oh yeah, the stress of something that. Now, stress can cause many negative things in your life. I mean, that I do agree with. Stress can cause some negative health things. I know there are some people who might gain weight, might lose hair, might get gray hair, which I don't know if that's true for me because I got my first gray hair way decades ago. But nevertheless, guys, that's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. It's almost unfathomable. And also 99% of rap lyrics have the N-word. I mean, if he really wanted to stop hearing the N-word in general, he would just stop listening to music. I mean, even anecdotally, I'm trying to think of how many times I heard the N-word in my life, in the real world, and it wasn't a black friend. Like, maybe once? Like, it is so freaking rare. And there's, especially nowadays, culturally speaking, in the United States, there's no incentive mechanism to do it. Most people, I think appropriately, find it viscerally disgusting to say it. I mean, if you say it publicly, you're going to lose your family, your friends, your job. You'll be culturally ostracized if you're, not African American. You say it, and you say, "Oh yeah, it might cause cancer." I mean, this is actually impressive in terms of this might be the dumbest thing that's ever been said on CNN, and that's saying something. And this went, of course, pretty viral. Got 2.7 million views as well as 32,000 likes. Now, going to the comment section, one of the first comments comes to us thanks to America Pop Bear, says, quote, "Always a victim," getting 1.7 thousand likes. The Democrat Media Tim says, quote, "Why are they still giving this failed former congressman any airtime? Dude is a liar and propagandist," getting 1.7 thousand likes. Our favorite contrarian comment comes to us thanks to the gas stove. I used to joke and say, gas stoves can't type. However, if they're as many things on the Internet of Things communicating with servers in China, they're basically computers, or they have computers in them. Maybe it is. I'm only partially kidding. Now, the gas stove, which again is a contrarian account that is very exceptionally proficient at going viral and getting attention. I mean, it's got 649 responses, more than any other comment here. Now, again, the gas stove says, quote, "Black people are really oppressed by systematic racism and societal bigotry when they are called the N-word every day, especially by far-right MAGA extremist bigots who want to normalize its use. It should be illegal to use the N-word, full stop," unquote. Now, it did only get 49 likes. We got 649 responses. I suspect they were ratioed. Urias Celtics says, quote, "Idiot. They call themselves the N-word more than any other demographic out there. But go in the corner and let the adults talk, dumbass." Getting 72 likes. And the guest host says, "As I said, they are exempt. It's the Constitution." Getting 3 likes. Mayday Monday says, quote, "What planet are you from? Your comment is total BS. Are you writing from Russia or China? For crap for brains? They all call each other that, by the way. I haven't heard a white man call a black man in 40 years. Getting 146 likes. Which, yeah, sounds about right. D. Gibbs says the gas stove is not a serious person. Again, literally just go to the gas stove's account and it says like professional gaslighter. And their description is masturbator, which, I mean, I haven't gone fishing in years, but it can be quite difficult to get the worm on that. But an interesting skill set. Now, going back to the main comment section, Paul Zupa says, quote, "Is that also what led to him pulling that fire alarm?" Getting 1.3 thousand likes. Yeah, that was comical. And again, an example of, people on the left never being held accountable. When he wanted to stop a vote, he just coincidentally, he pretended to trip and he pulled the fire alarm. And of course, there's no major reprimand. Now, the based electrician says, quote, "The stress of being called the N-word is why blacks suffer from obesity, cancer, etc. This message was brought to you by KFC." Getting 117 likes, which, in terms of things that can cause cancer, I think our food and diet in the United States, that could be a major variable. Maybe that's something we examine more, because that actually could. Now, Barefoot Pregnant says, quote, "Real solutions need real conversations, not oversimplified blame." Getting 30 likes. Ryan Dolly says, quote, "They call each other the N-word as easy as striking a breath of air every day. What's up with that?" Getting 4.5 thousand likes. Which I'm usually told is part of the culture. And again, not all of them do that. Many of them are visceral. Many of them hate that. Many of them find it viscerally disgusting, and many of them think it's just demeaning to the community, makes them all look bad. I mean, you see a similar instance when it comes to using improper grammar. It's a thing where, very interestingly enough, a lot of them will say it's part of their culture. Even on professional sites like LinkedIn, there are groups on LinkedIn, for example, called Blacks in Cybersecurity, where they purposely spell black, BLKS. So they actually miss some of the letters, and they think that's a good part of their brand. Personally, I think it's disrespectful to their own community to insinuate that they can't spell properly. I don't think that helps them look good. I think it's better, but that's just me. Now, Gigi also says, "What nonsense is this? So what makes whites suffer from obesity, cancer, etc.?" Getting 1,000 likes. I was going to say, I can't but think it's our food and our environment and chemicals and all that kind of stuff. Let's see here. You also have Dr. Shari saying, quote, "Imagine if black leaders stopped perpetuating false narratives and actually address real problems in their communities, like fatherless households, drug abuse, staggering school dropout rates, and generational welfare." Getting 3.8 thousand likes. My conspiracy theory is that they'll never do that because fixing a problem means they would have nothing to campaign on, you would not be dependent on the system, and you not vote for a bigger government. One of the worst things the government ever did was incentivize single motherhood by giving government handouts to them, which, again, after that happened, tripled the single motherhood rates in the African American community. The Hispanic community went up by, I believe, 18%. Asian community went up by about 12%. All the rates went up after the government started to incentivize it. It's a perverse incentive. They made the problem worse by incentivizing it. There are many instances where the women will make more money than if their husband were to keep the job. It's totally asinine. And again, I have the feeling they do that just to make more people depend on the government. Now, you also have Mr. Pitbull, though I don't think it's the singer, unless he has a disproportionate amount of time in his hands where he can actually tweet and stuff. Now, this alleged Mr. Pitbull says, quote, "Holy crap." There's some speakers on a telephone pole say, quote, North Korea, people are forced to listen to propaganda. Then in the USA, people do it willingly, and it has logos of CNN, MSNBC, ABC, NBC. Is that CBS? The last one? They got Fox News. They're basically all the same at this point. Got 1.6 thousand likes. Scrolling down more and more. Central Texas Patriot says, quote, "Happy White People Day. Our ancestors are the reason you have 5G instead of smoke signals. And it's a picture of a white family getting 1,000 likes. Though, I mean, I don't want to say the joke's on them, but I'm trying to think of 5G. The largest, not to get too nerdy, but one of the largest implementers of 5G in the United States would be Nokia as well as Ericsson. So I guess that they are Swedish. And they also have U.S. headquarters, of course. I mean, but also China has Huawei. So, I mean, no, I'm not saying, there are some big players making 5G, but it's not just the white folks. Going down more and more. Not Melissa Vitale says, quote, then tell blacks to stop saying it, getting 420 likes. Brian Kennedy, this is perfect. He says, the identity politics brainwashing works. It's got a picture of Oprah that says, you're a victim and you're a victim. Everyone's a victim, getting 583 likes. Which again, CNN is saying that, CNN is platforming him, and he's saying this because, again, there are many people that will believe him, and they'll give the party more political dollars. And again, race baiting is an incentive mechanism that, main Democrats make billions of dollars on. So that's why I'm so pessimistic in terms of, do I think that they'll ever stop? I hope so. I hope it does. Because again, I think it just perpetuates problems so they can make up problems so they can make more money. But let me know. Do you think, at the end of the day, do you think things will get better, get worse in the United States? Do you think this type of political baiting will still be popular and effective? Or do you think those times are coming to an end? Let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to other interesting political news, you have the Supreme Court allowing states to defund Planned Parenthood and going viral on social media, which, funny how this is yet another thing where, for decades, Democrats said, it doesn't really matter if, you don't have to worry about, this funding from the federal level. It's so insignificant. It's basically nothing. No one should care about it. It's not happening, they say. And like most things that they claim aren't happening, they in fact are happening. Yet again, we see this continuing trend. Now, this is tweeted thanks to Charlie Kirk, and he says, quote, breaking the Supreme Court has ruled in a 6-3 decision. Guess who? I can't help but think maybe the ladies keep, the leftists usually, regardless of substance or intellect or of the argument, the leftists of the Supreme Court always rule the same way. But nevertheless, he does say that the Supreme Court has ruled in a 6-3 decision that in the Melinda versus Planned Parenthood case, that the state Medicaid programs can defund Planned Parenthood. Huge breakthrough for the cause of life. Planned Parenthood should absolutely not receive a dime of taxpayer money. And that got 500,000 views about and 18,000 likes. Which, yeah, shoot, if you're up to me, they wouldn't tax us at all. Lord knows they steal enough from us already when it comes to federal income taxes and state income taxes and, well, what don't they tax these days? But yeah, of all things our tax dollars are used for, yeah, it definitely shouldn't be used for that. Now, scrolling back to the comment section, one of the first ones comes to us, thanks to the gas stove, our favorite contrarian, and he says, quote, this is blatantly unconstitutional and will be overturned and appealed, full stop, which, yeah, spoiler, it went to the Supreme Court. So, it don't work like that. Again, you go to the state Supreme Court, yeah, but this is the United States Supreme Court. Now, this person was, as always, ratioed. In this case, ratioed by Hispanic Nicholas. Me? No, kidding. But although I am. But he says, quote, appealed where? SCOTUS is the last place to appeal. Not very smart, are you? Gained 20 likes. The gas stove says, to the judges, genius, getting 5 likes. Which, yeah. About the first real comment comes to us thanks to lifenews.com, which I was going to say probably the most appropriately marketed name on X. That's what they do. And that's their website. And he say, quote, they actually post an article from lifenews.com. That was 128 likes. Nico says, quote, Charlie loves the unborn, but won't care much about them once they're here. We need increased Medicaid, childcare, and education. Gain 122 likes. With the U.S. education system? Hell no. What do the teachers do these days, on average? I mean, shoot, the teachers' unions mostly give that to politicians anyways. Yeah. And again, when it comes to who helps kids the most, I think the best would be served by local communities and churches, not by the government getting them addicted to government handouts for life and just getting their votes forever for free stuff. Yeah, Sarah Smith said, quote, defund Planned Parenthood, getting 90 likes. David Coyote says, quote, the leftist baby killers are on the Titanic since Trump was reelected. As the Titanic is called Democrat Party 2025, it's sinking, getting 26 likes. The Vault is a great meme. Says, quote, no king, they shout, while begging the government to rule their health, their pay, their speech, their children, their land, and their future. Yeah. And that got 56 likes. See here? Fatima Khan. I thought my name was funny. I used to be a journalist. Fatima? I guess no, topping's still weird. But nevertheless, Fatima says, quote, today, 1 in 6 Americans are food insecure, and wealth inequality is worse now than after the Great Depression. If you oppose government subsidized grocery stores so low-income people can afford food, but not government subsidization of companies, let the billionaires hoard even more wealth, isn't socialism you hate, it's working class people. Mentally vacuous, but got 11 likes, which, yeah, people don't realize how much businesses are taxed and how much, I mean, shoot, Lord knows we are too. Yeah, payroll tax, so much crap. Scrolling down more and more. Scrolling down. Buttermaker says, 3 dissenters, let me guess, getting 7, let's make it 8, 9 likes, going up like a stock. And someone has AI generated pictures of all the ladies on Supreme Court, which, yeah, groupthink is a thing, especially with ladies, statistically speaking. Defund the West says, quote, Planned Parenthood is a demonic organization that pushes for transgenderism and killing of babies, not a dime, getting 26 likes. Yep. They're very much pivoting their business model as the culture has shifted in the United States with transgender surgeries and chemicals and all that kind of stuff being pushed upon children. Planned Parenthood is going all in on it and making, oh, geez Louise, didn't mean to make dark humor, but making a killing doing it. That's the reason I am quite against any of those surgeries and those procedures, because the rate at which they take their own lives is identical whether they do or do not get the surgeries, and many of the kids especially just grow out of them because it's a phase. And some girls, I mean, they just want to be tomboys. They don't all want the surgeries. It's very, very common to have that temporary phase. We also have Deb Mallory saying, quote, I wholeheartedly agree. If you do not want to get pregnant, use birth control. If you do get pregnant and choose to terminate your pregnancy, pay for it yourself. My tax dollars should not be used to end a life. Getting 14 likes, which one of the most rudimentary arguments that Democrats have had since I was a kid, were crying about, oh no, poor people can't afford, you can't afford birth control. No one can afford it. It's too expensive. A condom is like $1. I'll be honest, I haven't checked in years, but it's like, it's never been cheaper. And there's places where you can get free birth control. Like literally, they have, I forget what we call these. They have clinics. You can get a free condom. Yeah, because I love when people go, oh yeah, it's too expensive. Democrats said that for years. That's why we have to give these out for free. We have to give out free. Yeah, we should. I mean, the DNC has deviated so much from what it used to be. It used to be safe, legal, and rare, which I would argue many Americans did agree with at the time, back in the 90s. And that's what Democrats, Bill Clinton was at that same standard. Abortion was a bad thing, but he thought it should be safe, legal, and rare. And now the Democrat Party loves abortion so much. During the last DNC convention, they had a mobile abortion clinic, and they had a clinic, or not clinic, more mobile abortion mobile. And they even had another mobile where men could neuter themselves with the vasectomies. That's the Democrat Party today. There's so many traditional Democrats I think have gone more Republican and libertarian with their voting status past couple of years, especially. Now you also have Amanda Molliette saying, quote, Planned Parenthood is a horrible organization that kills babies and provides puberty blockers to little kids. Defund them, getting 12 likes. Lori Ann says, that's good. If a woman wants to get an abortion, they can fund it themselves. It would just be cheaper to use birth control, gain 42 likes. Last year, Roman says this is massive. The Supreme Court finally allowing states to stop funding Planned Parenthood, which has murdered more people than every other genocide in the world combined, which is crazy to think about, but it is true if you dive into the details. And again, as this is being relegated to the states, I suspect many states like California and Minnesota will probably fund it so much that I'm sure they're so liberal, they'll probably pay you to get an abortion in those states. I mean, this is not too dissimilar to the United States Supreme Court ruling against Roe versus Wade and saying that if a state would like to, you can ban abortion. Now, to this day, in places like lefty states like Minnesota, you get an abortion up to 9 months or day of birth. So that's what the people there in Minnesota want. It's been relegated to the state level. You have other states that are restricting, much more restrictive on abortion. Some states even outlawing it completely. So again, when it comes to this actually having the ripple effect of the impact, I suspect that many of these Planned Parenthoods may be out of business, depending on how much incentive mechanisms and how much acceptance mechanisms and payments and funding they get from the government. And I mean, shoot, a lot of big corporations, Fortune 500, also believe in abortions. They'll probably put the Nike logo on the wall and they'll sponsor it. That's also going to be another revenue source for them, I'm sure. And again, apologies for the well, a couple of all-nighters this week and a couple copious amounts of caffeine to keep going. As I say, 105 hours a week can't be beat. So I especially appreciate your patience today. It's been a pretty challenging but exciting time as time technologies just continue to grow. So appreciate your, as always, your patience. Any critical feedback is always appreciated. And as always, let me know your thoughts because I'd be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the business blunder of the day, you have Chevrolet Silverado being recalled, which is rare because usually Ford recalls everything. Oh, but GM is actually in second place. Friendly reminder, Ford has had 78 recalls this year. GM has had about 14. So they're catching up, but Ford is still winning. Now, this is brought to us thanks to Brian Hurd, who's a writer at thedrive.com. He says, quote, fire risk prompts second recall of Chevy's big medium work duty trucks. A leaky seal in the brake pressure sensor assembly in some of Chevy's medium duty trucks can lead to a short circuit and potentially a fire. Whoops. Which, is what they do. Now they say, quote, Chevy has another pickup recall on its hands, but fortunately for GM, this one's significantly less impactful than the ongoing V8 quality control saga, where the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration pushed out a bulletin to advise dealers and the public that GM is recalling approximately 62,000 medium-duty trucks to address a potential issue with their brake. Earlier this week, sorry about that. Stop sentence. They say, quote, a pushed-out bulletin advised dealers and the public that GM is recalling approximately 62,000 medium-duty 4,500, 5,500, 6,500 trucks built for the 2019 to 2024 model year to address a potential issue with their brake pressure sensors, which in rare circumstances can lead to a fire. They say the company's concerns are focused on the seal that separates the brake pressure switch from its electronic sensor. If the seal is damaged or displaced, brake fluid can leak into the sensor's wiring harness, potentially leading to a short circuit, which can cause intermittent activation of the truck's brake assist feature and generate excessive wear under the hood, which can in turn cause a fire. Say the recalls appears to be an expansion of a previous model initiated in April 2023, which covered trucks produced through that model year. The new campaign adds some truck production for 2024. When it was announced, GM shared concerns that some trucks could catch fire even when parked and unattended, prompting GM to suggest that trucks be parked outside until the issue can be dealt with. Like most GM vehicles, which I think the most hilarious recall was the Chevrolet Bolt years ago, which would, lightning bolt, burst into flames unexpectedly. They say, quote, today, customers whose trucks display a, quote, service brake system indicator should especially be cautious, as this could be a sign that brake fluid has already contaminated the wiring harness. For GM's investigation, the seals themselves are not faulty, but in some cases, zinc-based sealing material incorrectly used during the assembly can deteriorate over time, and debris can interfere with the diaphragm separating the switch itself from the electronic components. This is likely to present a small number, approximately 1% of the trucks during that assembly time frame, which, GM having another recall isn't great. And also because GM, like Ford, wants to make more EVs, which, fiscally speaking, are a loser. So it's one of those things where they can only afford it because they offset the losses of the EV divisions because they're gas-powered vehicles. The most important gas-powered vehicles are trucks, crossovers, and SUVs because they're ridiculously profitable. That's why every company makes them. So to have a recall about one of your most profitable, important vehicles, I gotta say, GM, you are certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get to 6,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.